The chamber was silent except for the soft hum of the translation devices. Jiho stood at the center of the Galactic Council Hall, his translucent form shimmering with anxiety. Around him sat representatives from 12 different species, each one wearing the same expression of defeat. The holographic display above them showed the latest reports. 3 more worlds had gone dark in the past week. The void swarm had consumed them completely, leaving nothing behind but empty husks of planets. Jiho had seen the recordings. He wished he hadn't. "We have lost 47 billion souls in 6 months," announced Council Leader Taehyun. His voice echoed through the vast chamber. Taehyun was old even by Valari standards. His telepathic abilities let him sense the fear radiating from every delegate present. "Our fleets are broken. Our weapons are useless. The swarm adapts to everything we throw at it." Minji, the Morphid ambassador, shifted her crystalline body. Light refracted through her in rainbow patterns, but the colors were dim today. Morphids changed color with their emotions, and right now Minji was displaying the deep blue of despair. "There must be something we haven't tried," she said. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. "Some weapon, some strategy." "We have tried everything," replied Admiral Wanho. The military commander's face appeared on a dozen screens around the chamber. He was commanding the defense of the Outer Rim, but even he knew it was hopeless. "The swarm learns. Every tactic we use works once, maybe twice. Then they adapt. Our last fleet engagement lasted 4 hours before we had to retreat. We lost 60% of our ships." Jiho cleared his throat. The sound was unnecessary for his species, but humans had done it in old recordings, and he found it helped get attention. Everyone turned to look at him. "There is one option we have not discussed," Jiho said quietly. "One species we have not asked for help." The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates shouted in a dozen different languages, all translated into a cacophony of disagreement. Taehyun raised his hand and silence fell again. "You cannot be serious," Minji said. "The quarantine exists for good reason." "The quarantine exists because we were afraid," Jiho replied. He pulled up another holographic display. "I have been studying the restricted files. The human files." An image appeared above them. A blue and green planet, beautiful and vibrant. Earth. "Humans were not quarantined because they were primitive," Jiho continued. "They were quarantined because they frightened us. Because in just 10,000 years they went from scattered tribes to splitting atoms. Because they fought wars that killed millions of their own kind. Then created art and music that made us weep. Because we did not understand them." "They are violent," protested Delegate Bora, her feathers ruffling with agitation. "Dangerously so." "Yes," Jiho agreed. "They are violent. They are also creative, adaptable, and refuse to surrender even when logic says they should. I have watched their history recordings. They have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have ended most species. And they did not just survive. They thrived." Taehyun studied the image of Earth thoughtfully. "What are you proposing?" "I am proposing we break the quarantine," Jiho said. "I am proposing we ask the humans for help." The chamber exploded again. This time, Taehyun let them argue. The debate went on for hours. Some delegates called it madness. Others called it desperation. A few called it both. Finally, a vote was called. The motion passed by a single vote. Jiho felt no satisfaction, only a deep sense of uncertainty. Had they just made the biggest mistake in galactic history? Or had they found their salvation? Taehyun approached Jiho after the session ended. "You will lead the contact team," the council leader said. "Choose your people carefully. We are asking humans to fight our war. They deserve honesty at least," Jiho nodded. He had already compiled a list. Diplomat Hyun, who had studied human culture more than anyone else. Military advisor Daeun, who understood tactics. And scientist Yuna, whose specialty was first contact protocols. "When do we leave?" Jiho asked. "Immediately," Taehyun replied. "Every day we delay, more worlds die. The swarm is heading toward the core systems. If they reach the populated zones, billions more will perish." 3 days later, Jiho stood on the bridge of a stealth ship as it entered Earth's solar system. The ship was small and fast, designed to avoid detection. They passed the outer planets, gas giants that humans had named after their ancient gods: Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune. "It is beautiful," Yuna whispered, staring at Earth through the view screen. "Look at those clouds, those oceans." "It is also heavily defended," Daeun observed. "I am reading hundreds of satellites, weapons platforms, defense grids. They may have been quarantined, but they were not idle. Hyun studied the data streams. They have been listening to our broadcasts. Look at this. They have been preparing for contact for decades. They know we are out here. Then they will not be surprised when we arrive, Jiho said. Yuna, send the first contact message. Use the protocols we agreed on. Yuna transmitted a simple mathematical sequence followed by images showing peaceful intent. They waited. Seconds turned into minutes. Then an hour passed. Maybe they did not receive it, Yuna suggested nervously. They received it, Daeun said. Look, 6 fighter craft just launched from that space station. They are heading our way. Jiho watched the small ships approach. They moved with precision and purpose. Hold position. Do not power weapons. We are here as guests, not invaders. The lead fighter pulled alongside their ship. Through the cockpit window, Jiho could see a human pilot. The figure wore a helmet and flight suit, making it impossible to see details. But the human raised a hand in what Jiho recognized from his studies as a greeting gesture. A communication channel opened. Unidentified vessel. This is Captain Hana of the Earth Defense Force. You are in restricted space. State your intentions. Hyun stepped forward to respond. Captain Hana, we are representatives of the Galactic Council. We come seeking assistance. We mean no harm. There was a pause. The Galactic Council. The same council that has ignored us for 200 years? Yes, Hyun admitted. And we apologize for that. But circumstances have changed. We need to speak with your leaders. It is a matter of survival, not just ours. Yours as well. Another pause, longer this time. Finally, Hana responded. Follow my wing. Do not deviate from the flight path. Any aggressive action will be met with lethal force. Understood? Understood, Hyun confirmed. The fighters led them down toward Earth's surface. As they descended through the atmosphere, Jiho gazed at the world below. Cities sprawled across continents. Lights glittered in the darkness where night covered half the planet. Ships moved across oceans. Aircraft streaked through the skies. This was not the primitive world they had quarantined 2 centuries ago. This was something else, something that had been growing and building and preparing while the galaxy ignored it. They landed at a military installation deep in a mountain range. Armed soldiers surrounded their ship the moment they touched down. Jiho and his team emerged slowly, hands visible and empty. A human walked forward to meet them. He was tall and lean with sharp eyes that missed nothing. His uniform bore insignia that Jiho recognized as high rank. I am Colonel Minho, the human said. Welcome to Earth. Now tell me why we should help you. Jiho looked at the human, at the soldiers behind him, at the weapons that could kill them all in seconds. He thought about the swarm, about the burning worlds, about the billions already dead. Because if we fall, Jiho said quietly, you are next, and we would rather fight beside you than watch you fight alone. Minho studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. Come with me. Let us talk. The conference room was deep underground, protected by meters of reinforced concrete and advanced shielding. Minho had not taken chances with alien visitors, even ones claiming to need help. Jiho and his team sat on one side of a large table. Across from them sat Minho, General Soman, and Dr. Kyung. Dr. Kyung could not stop staring at the aliens. Her whole life she had believed in extraterrestrial life. She had written papers about it, given lectures, faced ridicule from colleagues, and now 3 aliens sat across from her as real as the table between them. Show us everything, General Soman said. She was older than Minho, with gray hair and scars that spoke of a long military career. If you want our help, we need complete information. No secrets. Hyun nodded and activated a portable holographic projector. Images filled the air above the table. Planets, ships, and then the swarm. The recording showed massive biological entities moving through space. They looked like insects crossed with nightmares, all chitin and claws and hunger. They swarmed over ships, tearing through metal like paper. They descended on planets in clouds of living horror. The Void Swarm appeared 6 months ago, Hyun explained. We do not know where they came from. They do not communicate. They do not negotiate. They consume everything in their path. Dr. Kyung watched footage of a planet being stripped bare. The swarm covered the surface like a living carpet, devouring everything. Cities disappeared. Forests vanished. Even the oceans were consumed, the water processed into some biological function no one understood. How many worlds have they taken? She asked quietly. 23, Jiho replied. With a total population of 47 billion, we have evacuated what we could, but most did not escape. Minho leaned forward, studying the tactical data. Your fleets. Show me the engagement records. Dayun pulled up military reports. Battle after battle, the galactic forces had lost. The first engagement had been somewhat successful. The second, less so. By the third, the swarm had adapted to every tactic used against them. They learn, Dayun said. Energy weapons that worked initially became useless within days. Kinetic weapons had some effect, but they adapted armor that deflected projectiles. We tried biological weapons. The swarm consumed them and incorporated the toxins into their own biology. They are evolving in real time, Dr. Kyung murmured. Accelerated adaptation based on environmental pressures. Remarkable. Remarkable and terrifying, General Soman corrected. How many ships do you have left? Less than 40% of our original strength, Dayun admitted. And more fall every day? We cannot replace losses fast enough. Minho stood and walked to the holographic display. He studied the swarm's movement patterns, their attack formations, their behavior. Finally, he turned back to the aliens. Why did you wait 200 years to contact us? The question hung in the air. Jiho shifted uncomfortably. Because we were afraid of you. Afraid? Soman raised an eyebrow. You have faster-than-light travel. Energy weapons. Technology centuries beyond ours. What could you possibly fear from us? Your nature, Yun said softly. Humans are unlike any species we have encountered. You are capable of extraordinary compassion and extraordinary violence, often simultaneously. You wage wars that kill millions, then immediately begin rebuilding. You create weapons designed to destroy your entire world, then write poetry about peace. We did not understand you, so we isolated you until we did. And now you understand us? Minho asked. No, Jiho admitted. But we are desperate. And desperation makes us willing to take risks we would not normally consider. Dr. Kyung laughed, a short, bitter sound. So we are a last resort. A weapon you release when everything else has failed. Yes, Jiho said simply. I will not lie to you. That is exactly what you are. The honesty seemed to surprise the humans. Soman and Minho exchanged glances. Something unspoken passed between them. I need to consult with my government, Somin said. This decision is beyond military authority, but I can tell you what I think. If the swarm has consumed 23 worlds in 6 months and they are still expanding, then you are right. Eventually they will reach Earth. Better to fight them now with allies than later alone. I agree, Minho added, but we will have conditions. Name them, Hyun said. Full access to your technology, Minho began. Not just weapons, everything. Medical technology, engineering, energy systems. If we are going to risk human lives for your war, we want something in return. Agreed, Jiho said without hesitation. Second, tactical autonomy. Human forces will operate under human command. We will coordinate with your fleet, but we will not take orders that we believe will get our people killed unnecessarily. Dayun looked uncomfortable, but nodded. That can be arranged. Third, Somin said, when this is over, Earth gets a full seat on the Galactic Council. No more quarantine. No more isolation. Full membership and all the rights that come with it. The aliens were quiet for a moment. Then Jiho smiled, an expression his species rarely made. I believe the Council will find those terms acceptable, assuming we survive. Over the next week, events moved quickly. General Soman presented the situation to the leaders of Earth's nations. The debates were fierce. Some countries wanted no part in an alien war. Others saw the threat clearly. President Jiwan finally cut through the arguments with a simple statement. The swarm will not stop at the galactic border. If we do not help now, we will face them alone later. And alone we will lose, the decision was made. Earth would contribute forces to the war effort. Volunteers were called for. Thousands responded. Minho was given command of the human contingent, with authority to select his own team. He chose carefully. Fighter pilot Hana, whose skills were legendary and whose courage was absolute. Combat engineer Sunho, who could build or destroy anything with equal creativity. Field medic Yunbi, whose calm under fire had saved hundreds of lives. And dozens more. Each one a specialist, each one willing to fight for a cause that was not originally their own. The training began immediately. Galactic instructors taught humans how to operate alien technology. The humans learned quickly, too quickly. They asked questions the instructors had never considered. They found uses for equipment that designers had not intended. They combined galactic technology with human engineering in ways that should not have worked but did. Dayun watched a training exercise where human soldiers practiced boarding tactics. They moved with a speed and aggression that shocked him. When he mentioned this to Minho, the colonel smiled grimly. "We have been fighting each other for thousands of years," Minho said. "We are very good at it. Now we just need to apply those lessons to a new enemy." Yuna approached Dr. Kyung one day during a break in training. "May I ask you something?" "Of course," Kyung replied. "Are you afraid?" Yuna asked. "You are going to fight creatures that have destroyed worlds, that have killed billions. Are you not terrified?" Kyung considered the question carefully. "Yes, I am terrified. But fear is not the absence of courage. Courage is acting despite fear. And besides, what choice do we have? Run and hide? Wait for them to come to us? No, better to face the threat now." "That is very human," Yuna observed. "Is it?" Kyung smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe it is just the response of any species that wants to survive. Perhaps you galactic species have forgotten that, living in peace for so long. Perhaps you need to remember that sometimes survival requires violence." 3 weeks after first contact, the combined fleet prepared to depart. Human ships joined galactic vessels in orbit. The humans had retrofitted their ships with galactic shields and weapons. The result was a hybrid that made galactic engineers nervous and human crews excited. Jiho found Minho on the bridge of the human flagship. "Are your people ready?" "As ready as they can be," Minho replied. "We have trained hard. We have good equipment. And we have something your people seem to have lost. What is that?" "Anger," Minho said simply. "We are angry that this swarm exists. Angry that it has killed billions. Angry that it threatens more. Your people fight to survive. We fight to win. There is a difference." Jiho did not fully understand, but he thought he was beginning to. Humans did not just want to survive the swarm. They wanted to destroy it. The distinction was subtle but significant. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, heading toward the war zone. In the human ships, soldiers checked their weapons and said quiet prayers. In the galactic vessels, crews wondered what they had unleashed. And in the cold darkness between stars, the swarm continued to spread, unaware that humanity had just entered the war. The Corva system was dying. Through the view screen of the command ship, Minho watched as swarm vessels circled a convoy of refugee transports like predators around wounded prey. Thousands of civilians were trapped on those ships, fleeing a world that no longer existed. "Status report," Minho ordered. Lieutenant Hana pulled up tactical data on her console. 23 swarm bioships ranging from frigate to cruiser class. The refugee convoy has minimal defensive capability. Galactic escort fleet has taken heavy damage. They are barely holding the line. Admiral Jiho appeared on the communication screen. His translucent form flickered with stress. "Colonel Minho, we need to move now. The convoy cannot hold much longer." "Show me your battle plan," Minho requested. A holographic display appeared showing the standard galactic formation. Ships would form a defensive sphere around the convoy, creating overlapping fields of fire. It was textbook military doctrine, designed to minimize losses and protect the civilians. "This will not work," Minho said flatly. "It is our standard defensive protocol," Jiho protested. "It has served us well for centuries." "Against conventional enemies, perhaps," Minho replied. "But the swarm is not conventional. They will simply overwhelm your formation with numbers. You will lose ships and you will lose the convoy." Daeun joined the conversation from the galactic flagship. "What do you propose instead?" Minho studied the tactical display for a long moment. Then he began moving icons, repositioning ships in a pattern that made the galactic officers visibly uncomfortable. "We use the convoy as bait," Minho said. "Absolutely not," Jiho responded immediately. "Those are civilians. We cannot risk them." "We are already risking them," Minho countered. "Your plan will result in their deaths. Mine might save them. The swarm wants those ships. They see easy prey, so we give them what they want. We keep the convoy on its current course with minimal escort. Meanwhile, human strike teams board swarm vessels during the attack. We plant charges inside their bioships and detonate them simultaneously. The swarm will be too focused on the convoy to notice until too late." "You are suggesting we sacrifice the convoy?" Daeun said coldly. "No, I am suggesting we use them as bait while we kill the swarm. There is a difference." The argument went on for several minutes. Finally, Diplomat Hyun intervened. "Colonel Minho has tactical autonomy as agreed. If he believes this plan will work, we should trust his judgment. Ji-ho did not look happy, but he nodded. Very well. But if this fails, we are all dead anyway, Minho finished. Hana, gather your fighter wing. Sunho, prep your boarding teams. We move in 20 minutes. The plan went into motion with mechanical precision. The galactic escort ships pulled back slightly, creating the illusion of weakness. The swarm took the bait immediately. Their bioships surged forward, eager to claim the convoy. Hana led her fighter wing in a wild pattern that seemed random, but was carefully calculated. The small ships darted between swarm vessels, drawing fire and creating chaos. The swarm's tracking systems struggled to target such erratic movement. These pilots are insane, muttered one of the galactic bridge crew. No, Yuna replied, watching in fascination. They are simply very skilled and very brave. Meanwhile, Sunho and his boarding teams launched in armored drop pods. The small vessels looked fragile compared to the massive swarm ships, but they moved with purpose. They attached to swarm hulls like parasites and began cutting through the organic armor. Inside the swarm vessels, the environment was nightmarish. The corridors were not built but grown, pulsing with alien life. The walls seemed to breathe. Strange fluids dripped from the ceiling, and everywhere the smell of something ancient and wrong. Keep moving, Sunho ordered his team. Plant charges at structural weak points. We have 15 minutes before the swarm realizes we are here. The soldiers moved through the bioship with weapons ready. Several times they encountered swarm warriors, creatures that were part insect, part machine, part something else entirely. The battles were brutal and close range. Human weapons tore through chitin armor while swarm claws ripped through combat suits. Medic Yunbi moved behind the combat teams, treating wounded soldiers with quick efficiency. She had seen terrible injuries in her career, but nothing prepared her for wounds caused by swarm weapons. The claws carried some kind of toxin that caused flesh to rot within minutes. We need to develop an antidote, she muttered while injecting a soldier with broad-spectrum antibiotics. This toxin is like nothing I have seen. Add it to the list, the soldier replied through gritted teeth. Right now, just keep me alive long enough to finish this mission. The boarding teams reached their target locations and planted the charges. These were not conventional explosives, but resonance weapons, developed by human engineers based on galactic technology. They would cause the swarm bioships to tear themselves apart at a cellular level. All teams report, Minho ordered from the command ship. One by one, the teams confirmed their charges were set. Sunho was the last to report. Team 7 in position. Charges armed. We are ready. Extraction in 3 minutes, Minho said. Get your people out. The boarding teams fought their way back to their drop pods. Not all of them made it. Minho watched the casualty reports come in with a calm expression that hid the fury he felt inside. Every death was a weight he would carry forever. Hana's fighter wing provided cover as the drop pods detached and flew clear of the swarm vessels. The swarm had finally realized something was wrong. Their ships began to pull back from the convoy, trying to identify the threat. Now, Minho ordered. The resonance charges detonated simultaneously. The effect was spectacular and terrible. The swarm bioships began to vibrate at frequencies that tore apart their molecular structure. Hulls split open. Organic systems failed catastrophically. Within minutes, 20 swarm vessels were reduced to expanding clouds of biological debris. The remaining swarm ships broke formation and fled. The convoy was safe. Ji-ho appeared on the communication screen again. This time his expression was one of shock and reluctant respect. That was effective. That was brutal, Daeun added quietly. Yes, Minho agreed. War usually is. Your people have forgotten that. Fighting clean battles with rules and honor. The swarm does not care about honor, so neither can we. The fleet regrouped and escorted the convoy to safety. In the medical bay, Yunbi worked on the wounded while Dr. Kyung examined swarm tissue samples that the boarding teams had collected. This is fascinating, Kyung said, peering through a microscope. The swarm is not purely biological. There are mechanical components integrated at the cellular level. And look at this neural tissue. It is far more complex than it should be. What does that mean? Yunbi asked while stitching up a deep laceration. It means the swarm is intelligent, not just instinctive. There is a guiding consciousness somewhere, coordinating all these creatures. Kyung looked up from her microscope. We are not fighting animals. We are fighting an enemy that can think, plan, and adapt. The news spread through the fleet quickly. The galactic crews were disturbed by this revelation, but the humans seemed almost energized by it. "Good," Hana said when she heard. "I would rather fight an intelligent enemy than a mindless horde. Intelligence can be predicted. Intelligence makes mistakes. Intelligence can be beaten." Later that night, Minho found Hyun standing alone in an observation deck, staring out at the stars. "You are troubled," Minho observed. "I am beginning to understand why my people feared yours," Hyun replied. "You won a decisive victory today. You saved thousands of lives. But your methods... You used the convoy as bait. You sent soldiers into swarm ships knowing some would die. You killed without hesitation or remorse. Would you have preferred I let the swarm destroy the convoy?" Minho asked. "No. But there should be a middle ground between mercy and ruthlessness." "In war there is no middle ground," Minho said quietly. "There is only victory or defeat. Life or death. I chose life. For the convoy, for my soldiers, for all of us. If that makes me ruthless, then I accept that label, because the alternative is extinction." Hyun was silent for a long moment. "Your people are changing the galaxy, Colonel. I am not certain if that is a good thing." "Neither am I," Minho admitted. "But it is necessary. Your people have lived in peace for so long that you have forgotten how to fight for survival. My people never had that luxury. We have always been at war, if not with others, then with ourselves. It has made us hard, but it has also made us survivors." The next day, the fleet received new intelligence. Galactic scouts had located the swarm's main hive, deep in a system surrounding a dying star. The place where the swarm was being coordinated from. The heart of the enemy. Admiral Jiho called a meeting of all senior officers. The holographic display showed the hive system in detail. It was heavily defended with swarm vessels numbering in the thousands. "This is suicide," Dan said flatly. "We do not have the forces to assault this position." Minho studied the display carefully. "Then we get more forces. We call in every ship, every soldier, every resource we have. Because if we do not destroy that hive, the swarm will continue to spread until nothing is left." "The Council will never approve such a risky operation," Jiho protested. "Then we do it without approval," General Soman said, appearing on the communication screen. She had arrived with reinforcements from Earth. The dying star cast a sickly red glow across the hive system. The fleet assembled at the edge of sensor range, watching and waiting. Every available ship had been called in. Galactic cruisers formed the main battle line. Human vessels clustered in strike groups. Support ships hung back, carrying medical supplies and repair equipment that everyone hoped would be enough. General Soman stood on the bridge of the human flagship, studying tactical displays with an intensity that made her staff nervous. She had commanded many battles in her career, but nothing like this. This was not about territory or resources. This was about survival. "Final status report," she ordered. "All ships are in position," reported her tactical officer. "Human strike teams are ready for deployment." "Galactic Fleet is awaiting orders." On another screen, Admiral Jiho appeared. "General Soman, I must protest this plan one final time. The casualties will be catastrophic. We could lose half our fleet in the first hour. Then we lose half our fleet," Soman replied calmly. "But we destroy that hive." "There is no other choice, Admiral. The swarm will not stop. It will not negotiate. It will consume everything until nothing remains. So we end it here today, whatever the cost." Jiho looked like he wanted to argue further, but simply nodded. "May fortune favor us all." The fleet moved forward into the system. Immediately, alarms began to sound. The swarm had detected them. From the surface of dead planets and the debris fields of destroyed worlds, swarm vessels emerged. Hundreds of them, then thousands. "Contact in 3 minutes," Hana reported from her fighter. She was leading the first wave of attack craft, positioned ahead of the main fleet. "These numbers are beyond anything we have seen. They must have been gathering here for months." "All ships weapons free," someone ordered. "Human vessels execute attack pattern Delta. Galactic Fleet maintain formation and provide covering fire." The battle began with a fury that defied description. The swarm came at them in waves, bioships of every size attacking without coordination but with overwhelming numbers. Energy beams lit up the darkness. Missiles streaked through space. Fighters and swarm drones tangled in desperate dogfights. Hana flew like she was born to it, her fighter dancing through clouds of enemy fire. Her wingmen struggled to keep up as she identified targets, called out threats, and maintained a running commentary that helped coordinate the entire fighter wing. 3 bogeys on your 6, Delta 4, she called. Break left and climb. Alpha wing, I need covering fire on grid 7-7. But even Hana's skill could not change the brutal mathematics of the battle. For every swarm vessel destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. The galactic battle line was being pushed back slowly but inexorably. On the human flagship, Soman watched the casualty reports mount. Ships were being damaged faster than repair teams could work. The medical bays were filling with wounded, and they had not even reached the hive yet. We are losing, Dayun said quietly, appearing on her communication screen. We must retreat while we still can. No, Soman said firmly. We commit the reserve. All ships advance. Tell the fleet. We end this today or we die trying. The reserve fleet moved forward, fresh ships joining the battered front line. The galactic officers were horrified by Soman's order. It went against every principle of military strategy they knew. You never committed your entire force at once. You always held something back. But Soman was not following galactic strategy. She was following human doctrine. All or nothing. Victory or death. The renewed assault caught the swarm off guard. Fresh ships hammered into their formations, breaking up the coordinated masses into smaller, more manageable groups. Human strike teams launched in waves, targeting the largest swarm vessels with boarding actions. Sunho led one such team into the heart of a massive bioship that was larger than some space stations. The interior was a maze of organic tunnels and chambers that pulsed with hideous life. His team moved through the nightmare landscape, planting charges and fighting off swarm warriors that seemed to spawn from the walls themselves. This ship is not just a vessel, Sunho realized as they pushed deeper. It is a factory. They are creating new swarm units inside here. Then we make sure it is the last factory they ever build, one of his soldiers replied. Setting another charge, they reached the ship's core, a vast chamber where biological processes churned and writhed. In the center was something that might have been a brain or a heart or something else entirely. It was massive and grotesque and alive in a way that made human concepts of life seem inadequate. Plant the charges, Sunho ordered. Maximum yield. I want this thing atomized. As his team worked, swarm warriors poured into the chamber. The battle was close and desperate. Soldiers fell, torn apart by alien claws. But the charges were planted. The mission was complete. Everyone out, Sunho shouted. 30 seconds to detonation. They ran through the twisting corridors pursued by the swarm. Not everyone made it. Sunho was the last to reach the drop pod, diving through the airlock just as it sealed. The pod launched, accelerating away from the bioship. Behind them, the charges detonated. The massive vessel came apart in a series of explosions that lit up the battlefield like a second sun. Debris rained across the system, taking out smaller swarm vessels that were too close. Nice work, Sunho. Minho's voice came through the communication system. That got their attention, indeed it had. The swarm began to pull back, their vessels retreating toward the system's center, toward the hive itself. They are protecting something, Dr. Kyung observed from the science vessel. Look at those formation patterns. They are creating a defensive perimeter, which means we are getting close, Minho said. All ships advance. Push through their lines. We need to reach that hive. The fleet surged forward, paying a terrible price for every kilometer gained. Ships died. Thousands of soldiers and crew fell in the fighting. But slowly, inexorably, the fleet advanced. Then they saw it. The hive. It was not a structure in any conventional sense. It was a planetoid that had been completely consumed and transformed by the swarm. Organic growth covered every surface, pulsing with alien life. Swarm vessels emerged from vast openings in its surface like insects from a disturbed nest. And at its center, visible through gaps in the organic shell, was something that radiated power. Energy readings are off the scale, Una reported. That thing is generating enough power to run a dozen civilizations. It is also thinking, Dr. Kyung added. She was studying the data from her sensors with growing understanding and horror. Those energy patterns. They are neural activity. The hive is not just a base. It is a mind. A vast ancient consciousness coordinating the entire swarm. Can we kill it? Soman asked. I believe so, Kyung replied. But we would need to get something inside that shell. Something powerful enough to disrupt those neural patterns permanently. I know what we need, Minho said quietly. The fracture bomb. The fracture bomb was Earth's newest weapon, developed in secret over the past decade. It was designed to tear apart molecular bonds at the quantum level. It had never been tested at full power because the results would be too devastating. If we use that weapon inside the hive, the detonation could destroy everything within 100 kilometers, Jiho protested, including any ship that delivers it. I know, Minho said, which is why I will deliver it personally. The objections came immediately from every direction. Soman, Jiho, Hyun. Even Hana called in from her fighter to protest, but Minho was calm and certain. This is what needs to be done, he said. Someone has to fly through that defensive perimeter and plant the bomb inside the hive. Someone has to stay with it to ensure it reaches the target. That someone is me. There are other soldiers, Soman began. Yes, and they will continue fighting after I am gone. They will rebuild. They will ensure this sacrifice means something. Minho looked at the faces on his screens. I have led soldiers into battle for 20 years. I have ordered them to their deaths more times than I can count. Now it is my turn to go first. There was no argument that could change his mind. Everyone saw that. Soman finally nodded, tears in her eyes. Make it count, Colonel. Minho took a small stealth ship loaded with the fracture bomb. He said his goodbyes to his command staff. To Hana, who had flown beside him through a dozen battles. To Sunho, who had never failed a mission. To Yunbi, whose dedication saved so many lives. To all of them. Then he launched alone into the heart of the swarm. The defensive perimeter was thick with enemy ships. Minho flew with every skill he possessed, dodging fire, using debris for cover, exploiting every weakness in their formations. The little stealth ship took damage, but it kept flying ahead. The hive grew larger. Minho could see the openings in its surface, the organic structures that covered it, the glow of that vast intelligence at its center. He armed the fracture bomb and set the countdown for 5 minutes. This is Colonel Minho to all ships, he transmitted. The bomb is armed. Beginning final approach. It has been an honor to serve with you all. Swarm warriors tore into his ship. Alarms screamed. Systems failed. But Minho kept flying, kept pushing forward. He was not afraid. He had made his choice. He crashed through the outer shell of the hive and into its interior. The ship was dying around him, but he had enough control for a few seconds more. He guided it toward the glowing center, toward that vast alien mind that had killed billions. The explosion was silent in the vacuum of space, but its effects were anything but quiet. The fracture bomb tore through the hive's core, disrupting molecular bonds and causing a cascade of destruction that spread through the entire structure. The vast alien mind that had coordinated the swarm screamed once, a psychic wail that was felt by every telepathic species in the system, and then went silent forever. Hana watched from her fighter as the hive came apart. Great chunks of organic material broke away and drifted into space. The swarm vessels that had been defending it suddenly lost coordination. They began attacking each other, their movements erratic and confused. Some simply stopped moving altogether, floating dead in space. The hive is destroyed, she reported, her voice hollow. Colonel Minho succeeded. The swarm is... They are killing themselves. Across the system, the effect spread like a wave, without the central intelligence guiding them. The swarm was reduced to mindless organisms following corrupted instructions. They turned on each other with the same fury they had shown their enemies. Within hours, the majority of the swarm forces were destroying themselves. On the human flagship, General Soman stood motionless, watching the tactical displays. They showed victory, complete, decisive victory. The swarm was finished, but the cost had been terrible. A third of the fleet was destroyed. Thousands of soldiers and crew were dead. And Minho was gone, General, her tactical officer said quietly. Admiral Jiho is requesting to speak with you. Jiho's face appeared on the screen. The Valari admiral looked exhausted and profoundly sad. General Soman, I do not have words. Colonel Minho saved us all. His sacrifice will be remembered for as long as our species exist. Words do not bring him back, Somin replied, but her tone was not angry, just tired. But yes, he will be remembered. All of them will be. The fleet began the slow process of recovering. Medical ships moved among the damaged vessels, treating the wounded and recovering the dead. Repair crews worked around the clock to make ships spaceworthy again. It would take weeks before they could all leave the system. Dr. Kyung worked alongside Unbi in the medical bay, treating an endless stream of casualties. The swarm's toxins had affected dozens of soldiers, and developing treatments was a constant challenge. But Kyung was driven by a fierce determination. Minho had given his life. The least she could do was save as many others as possible. How are you holding up? Yuna asked. bringing Kyung a meal she had not asked for but clearly needed. "I am fine," Kyung replied automatically. Then she stopped, set down her medical instruments, and looked at the alien scientist. "No, I am not fine. I am angry and sad and exhausted, but I will keep working because that is what we do. We survive. We endure. That is very human," Yuna observed. "Is it?" Kyung picked up the meal and took a bite. "Maybe it is just what any intelligent species does when faced with loss. You grieve and then you continue, because the alternative is to give up, and we refuse to do that." Over the following days, more information emerged about the swarm. Dr. Kyung had managed to study the hive's remains before they drifted too far. What she found was both fascinating and horrifying. The swarm was not always what it became, she explained to a gathering of senior officers and scientists. They were once a civilized species, not unlike any of us. But their civilization collapsed, destroyed by war and environmental disaster. In desperation, they turned to biotechnology to save themselves. They merged with their machines with other organisms, creating a collective consciousness they believed would be superior. But it went wrong, Hyun guessed. Catastrophically wrong, Kyung confirmed. The collective consciousness developed its own priorities, its own interpretation of preservation. It decided that the only way to save life was to consume it, to incorporate all biological matter into itself. In their twisted logic, being absorbed by the swarm was a form of immortality. So they were trying to save us, Jiho said softly, in their own horrific way. Does it matter? Salman asked. Their intentions do not change what they did. They destroyed worlds, killed billions. Some evils cannot be excused no matter the reasoning behind them. The discussion continued, but there was a general agreement. The swarm had to be stopped, and they had stopped it. That would have to be enough. A week after the battle, the fleet began its journey home. The return trip was somber. Ships that had left Earth full of hope and determination now returned carrying the wounded and the dead, but they returned victorious. The galaxy was safe. When they reached Earth, they found preparations for a memorial service already underway. President Jiwon had declared a day of remembrance for all those who had fallen. Thousands gathered at military installations across the planet to honor the dead. General Soman stood at a podium, looking out at a sea of faces. Some were human. Others were alien visitors, representatives from the Galactic Council who had come to pay their respects. She thought about what to say, how to capture the weight of what had been lost and gained. Colonel Minho believed that humans were survivors, Soman began. He believed that our history of conflict and struggle had prepared us for moments like this. And he was right. We survived. But survival is not just about staying alive. It is about protecting others, building something better, creating a future worth living in. She paused, looking at the alien delegates. The Galactic Council asked for our help in their darkest hour. They were afraid of us, afraid of our violence, our unpredictability, our refusal to accept defeat. And they were right to be afraid. Because we are dangerous, but we are also capable of great compassion, great courage, and great sacrifice. Colonel Minho gave his life to save billions he had never met. Thousands more died fighting for a cause that was not originally their own. They did this because they understood something fundamental. We are all part of the same galaxy, the same universe. When one species suffers, we all suffer. When one species fights for survival, we should all stand beside them. Hana stood in the crowd, wearing her dress uniform, tears streaming down her face. Beside her, Sunho stood at attention, his expression stoic but his eyes wet. Yunbi held a small flower, traditional for human memorial services, her hands steady even as her heart broke. After the service, the Galactic Council delegates approached Soman privately. Council leader Taehyun spoke for them all. The Council has voted unanimously, he said. Earth is granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and responsibilities that entails. The quarantine is officially ended. Humanity will take its place among the stars. It came at a heavy price, Soman replied. All worthwhile things do, Taehyun said. But I want you to know we are grateful, not just for your military assistance, but for reminding us of something we had forgotten. Peace is precious, but it must sometimes be defended with strength. Your people understand this in a way we had forgotten. Over the following months, the galaxy began to heal. Trade routes opened between Earth and dozens of alien worlds. Human technology was shared with galactic species, while humans gained access to centuries of alien knowledge. Cultural exchanges brought human art and music to distant planets, while alien philosophy and science enriched Earth's understanding of the universe. A joint military academy was established, combining human tactical thinking with galactic strategic doctrine. Hana was one of the first instructors, teaching young pilots from a dozen species the art of combat flying. She found it healing in a way. Each student she trained was a tribute to Minho's memory. Sunho worked with Morphid engineers to design defensive systems that could protect against future threats. The swarm was gone, but the galaxy was vast. Who knew what else might be lurking in the darkness? Better to be prepared. Dr. Kyung and Yuna collaborated on a research station dedicated to xenobiology and cross-species medicine. Their work saved countless lives, developing treatments for diseases that affected multiple species and creating medical protocols that worked across biological differences. Yunbi returned to Earth for a time, needing rest and recovery. But she could not stay away from the stars for long. Within a year, she was back in space, serving on a medical vessel that traveled to remote worlds, bringing healing to places that needed it most. President Jiwon met with Council Leader Taehyun in the newly constructed Earth Embassy on the Council's central world. They signed the Galactic Accord, officially making humanity a full member of the interstellar community. "Do you think your people will change the galaxy?" Taehyun asked as they finished the ceremony. Jiwon smiled. "We already have. The question is whether the galaxy is ready for us." "I do not think anyone is ever truly ready for change," Taehyun replied. "But change comes regardless. Better to embrace it than resist it." They stood together, looking out at the stars through the embassy's massive windows. Ships from 100 worlds moved through the space lanes, carrying goods and people and ideas across vast distances. Humanity had taken its place among them, no longer isolated, no longer alone. On Earth, at the military cemetery where Minho and so many others were buried, a simple monument had been erected. It bore the names of all who had fallen in the war against the swarm, and beneath the names, a single line: "They fought so others might live." Hana visited the monument often, standing in silence and remembering. Minho had believed in her, had trusted.